Yes, boys, hope you're well. Today's video, 5 mistakes that are essentially keeping you from being lean, keeping you from getting shredded. These are 5 mistakes that I've made and 5 mistakes that I see people make time and time again. So if you pay attention and take some notes from this video, you'll probably get into the best shape of your life and get lean once and for all, because you know exactly why most people go wrong and how to prevent it from happening with your physique. So without further ado, the first thing that we have to talk about is the mindset. And it's the fact that most people just like to sit in the middle. Imagine there's a scale of 1 to 10 of how committed you are to this transformation, how committed you are to actually losing this body fat. Most people are 50 to 60% in to the game, and I have no idea why. Because if you want to lose body fat, you're not going to do it by accident. You have to be completely intentional with everything that you are trying to do, which means you need to be 100% all in. At the end of the day, when you just simply write things down and work out what it is you are doing, when you are simply just doing your cardio, eating in a calorie deficit, but not tracking the calories, not tracking the macros, not actually weighing yourself every single day, you're 50 to 60% in. And what's going to happen is you're going to get average results, and you're probably not going to get the results you want, which means you're setting yourself up for a life of pain, because essentially you're not going to get results for a long, long time. And that's what's causing you to actually fall out of love with the gym and not have the motivation, because you're not going that extra mile. People do 80% of the results, but they don't do that last 20. And that last 20 is essentially where everything sticks together. That's the glue. And it really does hurt to see, because I see so many people work so hard on a treadmill, doing the cardio, doing the expenditure, burning the calories, but they won't take the step further to use MyFitnessPal, to use the scale, because at the end of the day, how do you know you're not just eating those calories back that you're burning on the cardio machine? It's very pointless. So you need to make sure that you're completely all in, and if you're not all in, at the end of the day, you are not going to get results. Very simply, I don't care how anyone says it, that is just true. Okay, so you need to be completely all in. That's number one. Now, the second thing is that your expenditure just isn't there, and this is a mistake a lot of people make. They're not doing 10,000 steps per day without fail, and that's a big one. Whether you're in a calorie surplus, whether you're in a deficit, you need to be doing 10,000 steps, and if your expenditure is not there, as a result, the total calories that are required to maintain your weight are going to be lower. Therefore, even if you eat 2,200 calories, if you're not burning that in a given day, you're not in a deficit. So it's important that you have your expenditure in the right place. It's important that you're active. You understand NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is essentially just constant movement, building the habit of moving. If you live a sedentary lifestyle and eat in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose body fat at the end of the day, unless you eat in a substantial calorie deficit, but then you're going to have no energy. So it just makes sense to actually move your body and be active. You need to think, right, what's the healthy thing to do here? So make sure you're doing your 10,000 steps. Make sure you're doing enough cardio. At the end of the day, you do need to be doing cardio. You can't just rely on decreasing your food, because eventually you're just going to keep decreasing your food to the point where you're going to have nothing left to eat. You're going to starve yourself, and you're not going to be able to train with intensity and retain that muscle. So it's very important that you're doing, 10,000 steps. And honestly, on the first week of a deficit, depending on kind of your starting point, I'd be doing 6 days of cardio. I get very used to high output and just get used to just doing cardio every single day after my session. Simple as that. And the third thing is obvious, which is you're just eating way too much food, and most of the time you are. Everyone says, oh, I'm eating 2,000 calories, but they don't count the milk that's in their coffee, the vanilla latte they had at Starbucks, the caramel macchiato, the olive oil that they use to cook with all their chicken, the butter they put in their steak because it tastes nicer. The things all have calories. Those sauces that you destroy your food in, they have calories in as well. At the end of the day, it's not crazy amount of calories. Like, I have sriracha every meal, but there are calories in there. Those full fat Cokes you have, those beers you have, for some reason no one tracks alcohol. They got calories as well. So all of these things, and it comes down to the first point I said, until you're 100% in, you're the 60% version of you will just allow all of this shit to slip. And the reason why you're not losing fat is simply just because you're eating more food. And the reason you're eating more food is because you don't know exactly how much you're eating. Simple as that. You're not tracking it. You're not meticulous. You don't think like, what's actually going into my mouth. And that's pretty much the main thing. I've done that at the end of the day. I lived in Thailand last year. I was drinking mango smoothies. I was having caramel macchiatos. I was eating great food. Didn't think about the olive oil side of things. But yeah, at the end of the day, my expenditure was not matching my intake, and as a result, I was probably gaining. I wasn't really losing any body fat, and it just set myself up for a life of pain, because I was just staying in the same boat, working very hard, doing my cardio, but not seeing results. So you owe it to yourself to be disciplined. As they say, discipline equals freedom, because when you take everything seriously and you become very disciplined, you get the results, which is why you started in the first place. When you're half in and you're half out, you don't get results. You work hard, but for nothing. And it's like, do you see what I mean? Work hard, but work smart as well. You know, the person who just works hard isn't going to get the results. The person who works hard and works smart will get the results. Remember that, okay? Number 4 is don't and lose all emotional attachment to your weight. You're not a pussy. You can see what happens with the weight every single day. With data, we can make rational decisions, and you should not weigh yourself once a week, because at the end of the day, if you weigh yourself every Saturday, God knows what you are on Friday and God knows what you are on Sunday. At the end of the day, your weight can change very, very quickly. So it's very, very important to understand that if you're going to get the most accurate data that you can then use to manipulate your plan to further increase your fat loss, then you need to have solid data. And the only way you're going to do that is if you weigh yourself fasted. You have to have high standards about how you weigh yourself. If you do not have a weighing scale and you're weighing yourself at the gym, you are never going to lose the body fat you want. Why? Because you essentially are never going to be able to weigh yourself accurately. Why? Because you're probably going to eat and drink water by the time you go to the gym. So that will never be your fasted weight. In an ideal world, you have a scale right by your bed. Can't show you, but up there, my scale is right by my bed. I weigh myself first thing in the morning as soon as I wake up. In an ideal world, I even go to the toilet before I even weigh myself, because I potentially had a big meal last night that can interfere with things, and then that's the reading I will essentially use every single day. And I know that's complete accurate data. I track that and I get averages across the week. And according to the averages, if I'm on target, I don't really change what I need to. If for whatever reason it's off, I change something, I increase my expenditure or I decrease my food, whatever that may be. And most people just don't have the actual metrics in place to actually do this. So if you're not tracking your weight daily using your notes and creating a daily average, perhaps on a spreadsheet, then you are missing a trick there as well. So it's little things like this, right? I'm not telling you the crazy things like, oh, you need to eat this, you need to do that. You need to change your habits and your mindset. So the main thing is go 100% all in. Expenditure. Make sure you're active, you're moving, you're doing 10,000 steps or so. Make sure you're not eating and falling for hidden calories here and there. They are a thing. Make sure you're not emotionally attached to weight and you're tracking it every single day. At the end of the day, if you see your weight every single day, you're in control, you can do something about it. If you just try and avoid it and check it once a week, then you're a pussy. And then also, at the end of the day, you're not going to see the results you want. And finally, if you do not progress the plan in the way you should, and you do not start the plan in the way you should, you are setting yourself up for failure. So the biggest mistake that people make is they just assume that they should be on 2,000 calories. It's just like a fucking thing. Like everyone's just like 2,000 calories. But you got to understand that's not very, very good, because if we're going to be in a 16-week deficit and we're starting on 2,000 calories, we need to ideally have, 15 weeks of progression to the plan. And really, with 2,000 calories, you don't want to be going up below that, because that's the average male needs around 2,500, and that means just setting yourself up for a lot of cardio, but people don't even do the cardio, so it's just like they keep decreasing the food, and now training performance suffers, and muscle retention just goes out the window. So it's very silly. You don't do that. You basically find out your maintenance calories, and you stick to the maintenance calories, and then you throw in 6 days of cardio to begin with, and if you're losing weight, you rinse it until you're not losing weight, and then when you start slowing down on the weight loss, you've reduced your calories by 200 or so, 2,400, 2,200 now. This is pretty reasonable. And then you rinse that. When that starts to slow down, now you increase cardio. You increase it further and further. So you go 6 by 25 minutes, then 6 by 30 minutes the next week. You're probably going to lose more weight. Cool. Then go 7 by 30 minutes. Cool. You're losing weight. Now we've increased cardio 3 times. Okay, let's do one last drop on the calories. Let's go to probably 2,300 and 2,100. And we'll probably keep it there for a long, long time to keep those calories high. Cool. Then we go to 7 by 35 minutes, 7 by 40 minutes, 7 by 45 minutes. You should be consistently losing weight with these little adaptations, because you're adding an extra half an hour of cardio every single week, and you're going to be burning more calories as a result. Don't just rely on reducing your food as a tool. That's not the best way to do things. And it's important that you're just looking at the data. You're looking at your weight across the week, and essentially you're creating these adaptations as a result, and you will get better progress. And it's just very important not to just rely on calories, because at the end of the day, that can have a host of problems, such as essentially reducing the actual muscle you're going to retain, destroying your training performance and your overall enjoyment of the gym. So make sure that you understand all of that. And those are 5 mistakes that are essentially stopping you from getting shredded. If you take notes and just don't make those mistakes and implement them into your life, you will get shredded. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, do let me know. Other than that, catch you in the next one, boys. All the best. Safe.